Welcome back, everyone, or welcome to new listeners. This is episode 37 of Punk Vacation. I, of course, am always joined by Chris Haskell. Welcome back, Chris.
Hello.
And we're joined by our other co-host who I feel like the past few episodes, instead of doing your own segment, we've just these have all been just say co-hosting with us as well.
Yeah,
Celeste
round
Cabra.
tabling it. Yeah, it's been
Yeah.
fun. Let me do my other intro. Welcome to 15 Minutes with You, the segment whose name has sort of quintupled in practice at this point with guests. But
Yeah.
it's been less pressure for me to have other people to riff off of, and I have many irons and many fires at this point, so it's nice to have some help with this segment. But in any case, I think it's more fun to have a conversation other than just me yapping for 20 minutes or whatever. So
And these are
and
ones.
this is an ambitious slate this time. So
Yeah, exactly. And we're both like really stoked to talk about it. And I also we can call this 69 minutes with you to
there you
extend
go.
the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the
That's more accurate.
yeah, we're finding the joy in unfettered sleazy creativity, slutty creativity even, we'll say. Is if that's
Perhaps.
problematic.
I don't
It's
think
a
so.
pod it's a podcast dedicated to bringing awareness and context to movies of any budget from anywhere and during any time. And as always, when we say that, I like that we say that every time because I feel like specifically for the Melusine side, that goes double.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Yeah, this was a very ambitious because like I was actually looking at the amount of releases, and it's not like a lot in terms of like a pile of discs, but it is as a pile of movies. You know,
It
like
is.
there's so many, um, and so we all kind of had our work cut out for us, thankfully, and
Yeah.
and also this was supposed to be. I guess we can give people a peek behind the curtain, so to speak. We were supposed to release this as like a back-to-back thing in February, and both Celeste and I got that flu that was going around at different times, and
Hmm.
so this is coming in March, right after the announcements, which will follow that episode up next week. So we're just going to talk about quite a slate of November, December releases. I got really ambitious and wanted us to even cover January because they went the
Yeah.
opposite direction and made it very light. But like there wasn't a lot of releases, but at the same time, you put out another Satô set, it ups the
Exactly.
inventory a little.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, this was I love this month completely through and through.
Yeah. I think we're doing November and December, right? So a bit of
Yeah,
a
December
December is
was
a little
one
bit like
title. Yeah,
one title. Yeah, we know, whatever. So November plus a little extra.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, if you want to kick it off, Celeste, with the first title in the batch,
Sure, yeah. I don't think we decided on an order, so maybe I'll surprise everyone.
yeah, please.
I did want to say real quick, I'm sort of reflecting right now on how when I started this segment or when we started this segment, the amount of titles and the amount of films coming out per month was more manageable for a 15 minute like sort of
Yeah.
barometer, and it's just ballooned like the entirety of the Vinegar Syndrome empire. I don't know how you two are doing it. I can barely keep up with just this, but
Yeah, I've been here's what I can tell you personally from because I was with Chris and I talked about this on the last episode we did when we did the reviews for January is it my rule prior to being the podcast co-host was I would at least knock out the main line. Like that was mandatory, which is fairly manageable until they do like box sets. Like there was a month where they did like Forgotten Jolly Volume 8 and two Hong Kong movies. And
exactly.
that month
Hmm.
I absolutely was like, this feels like a job. But
Uh-huh.
and not only that, to be fair, that month with some of those Forgotten Jolly movies, watching them even on
Also
my
felt
own
like a
terms felt like a job. Yeah.
job.
So that being said, I have gotten into enough of a groove now where as soon as I get everything, I still kind of do that. And I don't know, it's worked out well enough. What I have to be more intentional about is when I'm not watching a VS title. Like, all right, I got a pile of Radiance here. I want to watch a Radiance
Hmm.
title. Like I have to be more intentional there, but it's been pretty manageable because especially from the Melusine side, it's stuff I've wanted to watch I'm excited to watch
Hmm.
it.
Yeah.
So um thankfully they keep having these shipping delays where like there's a sale, so they don't mail it out until mid-March, and for me, it's
Hmm.
got to go cross country. So, and it looks like they're doing that this month too, so it's not going to be too far back to back. So that's been it for me. It's funny you're saying that for me, but I don't know how Chris does it because he's
Yeah,
got
really. I meant
like
both of you, but yeah, for sure.
yeah, no, but that goes like triple for Chris, not even double,
Hmm.
because you've got other podcasts, other projects, a family. Like
That's that's
you've got
true.
you've got real world priorities that like supersede mine by a mile.
No, no, no. Everybody, you fill the time you have, right? So,
Sure.
but I think honestly, like there's a lot of nights where I have to just watch two movies in a night for like 4 nights in a row, and I don't love that.
Hmm.
But I'm a night owl naturally, so as long as I'm watching my first movie before 9 p.m., then there's plenty of
Right.
time to watch two. And that's
Exactly.
just kind of, just kind of what how it goes. I'm a little stressed right now because some point midweek, I've got to pretend to know something about Nagisa Oshima, um, and we're gonna cover at a minimum 7 films from that Radical Japan set, and then I'd like to cover another three if possible, and I've got 5 more to watch to make that happen. So I don't know if that's gonna happen or not, but we'll
Good
see.
luck.
But I will say that's a champagne problem because that box set, from what I've heard, I
Oof.
have it. I have it. It's sitting right behind me, actually, just off camera. But I've heard it's like release of the year through and through for not just Radiance, like in general.
Can I just pitch it? Like, it's the kind of box set that makes you love movies. Like, they have history of Japanese cinema. They have this 150-minute documentary with all the wild men of Japanese cinema, and it's just awesome. Like, they talk about how they were revolting against the studio system, and like they talk about how like they really like love on each other for the work they were doing at that time. It's just a very heartwarming documentary of rebellion. And I don't know, like the whole thing is just put together with so much love. Like, plus the movies are interesting, and Oshima is a very interesting director. So
Well, in the realm of the senses is in my letterbox top four. Like I saw that movie in a
yeah.
theater on film, no less, and it genuinely was like a spiritual experience. It's a great movie. I think, especially for right now. I think it's a great movie for this moment. Um, and so I'm really excited to see how his other political, like that, not just his filmmaking style, but also just what he's up to in terms of his, what he has to say with those movies. Because in the realm of the senses says a lot. So
Mhm.
I can only imagine. So what would that be a good segue to the Connie, or I'm going to let Celeste take the lead, so you don't have to. Which one
Sure,
did you
why
have picked up
not?
for? Oh,
I
okay.
had actually, you know what? You know
No,
what? I'm
go
gonna
with
stick with
whichever.
the
Go with your
order I
heart.
had here.
Yeah, please.
My discs are just kind of sitting in not really any order in particular, and I actually think they make a pretty good order. So let's start with the heavy hitter, just for the for
Mm,
viewer retention's sake, right?
yeah.
Mitchell Brothers Film Group, initial first debut release is the word I'm looking for. Behind the Green Door, a film I had heard about uh forever ago. I don't know. It's like a pretty big deal, right? And I've been
Yeah.
meaning to see for a long time. And I didn't have as much time to go through all the features on this as I would have liked, but I did see the movie, I did read the short story, and I did read most of the booklet. Um, so, that's probably enough, right?
Oh,
But
I think
yeah.
so. I did the inverse. I went through the whole disc, all the features,
Nice. That's
and
perfect.
I read a little bit of the book. I was able to read. Actually, no, I read all the booklet, but I did not read the short story, and
Hmm.
I need to do that.
That's
Um, but
interesting.
but yeah, what did you think of the film?
Uh, it's okay. I don't know. It's not my personal. Mm, the how do I say this? The film is, well, I guess the premise is a woman is kidnapped and then like turned into a sort of like spectacle performance for like an exclusive like sex club where people just go and watch this person. I mean, I don't need to sugarcoat it. She's just being raped over and over again, but like she's into it, so like it's fine, I guess. Um, it's a pretty rough premise for something that got as big as it did, but your mileage is going to vary on this sort of thing, right? There's some interesting is the neutral word I'm using for it. Let's say problematic while also subversive, like racial elements going on here. There's some pretty wild and bold like filmmaking techniques going on here. There's a 6 minute cum shot, which is like filmed in this like really bizarre, artsy, psychedelic way, which
Uh-huh.
I have to respect the audaciousness of it, but maybe to overshare a second, I think cum shots are really gross, and so I was not having fun watching one that lasted for
Well,
six.
I think of it as
Uh,
like, okay, I just want to piggyback on that for a second because I did think my mind certainly wandered during it. Like at a certain point, it actually
mhm.
desensitizes you to
Yeah,
the scene. It's kind of like Thriller, a cruel picture. Like
yeah, it
you
is.
remember there's that, every person that gets shot in that movie
Right.
or gets killed, you have to like sit with that moment for like 2+ minutes because it's shot in.
Hmm.
And so this does the same thing with that. And obviously I don't think the Mitchell brothers are here's the thing. This was before porn had a real clear cut formula, right? Or it had any kind
Uh-huh.
of, even had a chicness to it. Even though it was called porno chic at this point, this movie is not chic at all. It's very rough
Hmm.
around the edges, no pun intended. And like you know, and when you think of this in Deep Throat, it's funny. I saw them both pretty back to back when I was like 20 on X Hamster or something on like in like 360p, and I
Hmm.
was bored out of my mind with both of them. I literally remember finishing them like as a soldier of cinema, 20 as a 20-year-old
Hmm.
snob, being like, both of these fucking suck. Fuck this shit. And I still feel the same way about Deep Throat. Deep Throat's a very,
Yeah.
very bad movie. It's not good. Even if let's say there wasn't the story behind it, and it's funny that Chuck Trainer's kind of like the 6 Degrees situation with both of these movies, but take him
Hmm.
out of the equation and just Deep Throat on its own terms is still just a very bad movie, and the people who made it even feel that way. But like this, on the other hand, revisiting it, especially in 4K, like the restoration's incredible.
It
I
does look great. I'll say that. I mean, you're never gonna not compliment a Vinegar Syndrome 4K, to be
Yeah,
honest. Like, I feel like that doesn't even need to be said, but it does look pretty amazing. Like,
well,
especially considering where it probably came from and what it is. Like, damn.
right, and it was shot on 16, and like a B roll. He there's a great feature where Joe Rubin himself talks about the process. Usually those are Oscars segments, but Joe actually comes in and talks about it, which was great. Um, and when you know the history of the Mitchell brothers and their kind of like free speech, also if you know the ending of the Mitchell brothers story, oh boy, I don't know how
I
familiar.
didn't
Oh,
until about 15 minutes ago, and I was like, what the fuck is
yeah, it's
this
crazy. I
happening
actually,
here?
I actually remember as a kid seeing the story on hard copy, not
Damn.
connecting who they were, but because I was too young to know that. But uh, what I appreciated more about the movie this time, I have to say, I did like it. I don't know if it's something, it's not a pleasant experience by any means, but for something that was so new, like in terms of being such a, this is right before porn started with its formulas. Um, it reminded me more of 80s art house porno, like Cafe Flesh and
Yeah,
Corruption.
exactly.
It doesn't have the narrative structure that those have, or the kind of postmodern, in the sense that like they know, they're self aware it's a porno. They're actually with the Mitchell brothers. They're more like, no, we're taking you into a world, and this is whatever loose narrative there is here. Um, so the visually it really pops. It definitely 72 minutes does not fly by, especially that cum shot.
Hmm.
But um, you really also get to appreciate for this kind of like eyes wide shut style sex party that's happening.
Hmm.
It's shockingly, like you were saying, like it's very progressive with like not just interracial sex, and obviously the Marilyn Chambers element of it at the time was very scandalous, but it's also a very body positive movie, not on purpose. I mean, that term didn't
Yeah.
exist, but
Hmm.
you see all shapes and sizes getting down when that orgy happens, and it doesn't at all
That's
make it a
true.
point.
Yeah.
None of it's fetishized. None of it's focused on in a very, at least any more fetishized than any other shot in the movie. It's
Right.
all almost like equal opportunity fetish. And I really thought that was very effective. Like,
Hmm.
especially now when you see because, these guys lived in San Francisco and they wanted to make something artistic. And so, especially having just seen when you've seen Deep Throat and what that is compared to this movie does stand out a lot better. And I think that's why it was also as big of a hit, because it obviously had the Marilyn Chambers Ivory Soap scandal attached to it, but it also did, I think, make people feel more like they were watching something a little more artistic. Because not just the cum shot, there's like this kind of like cross dissolve where she's blowing a guy over like the city of San Francisco.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you change the content, it in form and in structure and in pace does feel like an art movie for sure, you know? And
Yeah.
that is to its detriment a little bit, and that is kind of boring. But like, you know, I also think about this is I don't know, this is an analogy that might not make sense to a ton of people, but like when you're first getting into black metal or something, and then you listen to that Venom record, and it's like this is not that great, or it's not what I'm expecting, or it's not what I want. But it's like, but this had to come first for the stuff that you like. You know what I mean? So
Right.
like, you gotta price it in, you gotta grandfather it in a little bit, give it some
Well, yeah,
credit for starting things. You know?
totally. And there's a well, what's funny is so right. But I still haven't seen Blue Money, which was considered the first. Technically, that was like a VS release. That's considered the first, the movie that actually legitimately kickstarted porno chic. But um, Bacchanal, which came out shortly after that in 1970, which was directed by the Amaro brothers, who made Blonde Ambition, among other things. They directed that, and that was made when softcore and hardcore were like it started, I believe, as a softcore project and later evolved to a hardcore project. That's even more shapeless than this. And I just saw it like 2 weeks ago at New Bev, but watching it, I you really get to appreciate even how much more progressed in the 2 years from that to this. Like it plays so much better. So even though it's like artifactual and not hasn't hit any of those points yet, where like it has like an affecting plot, it still makes you appreciate it a little more.
I'm actually surprised. I was not expecting to like this the most out of all of y'all.
Wow, yeah,
So,
I'm glad you like it.
yeah.
so
I was hoping to
um,
like it more, to be honest.
um,
I did like it, but just but yeah, but it
I,
is more my liking it is definitely qualified.
yeah, yeah.
I think I
Yeah.
have like I think I put it at like a 6 out of 10. So like,
Oh,
it's fine. But it's like a
that's not
light
too bad.
six for me, you know.
That's not too
But
bad.
I want to hear you
Yeah,
talk about
please.
how much you like it because you're less in the thick of it, as it were, with this stuff. And I'm curious what you think about it.
Was that a size
Yeah,
joke?
proceed.
Um, no, so I
Maybe.
think no, I think y'all nailed it. Yeah, y'all nailed exactly my thought. So there's a lot of references in punk to like bands that don't necessarily fit the punk scene but came first. And you talked
Mhm.
about Venom with the black metal, and I think like there's that there always has to be that thing that comes first, right? And like this movie came like it's funny to keep saying comes first, but anyways, like watching something like Cafe Flesh, I think like this movie walked so Cafe Flesh could run, right? In a way. Like it feels like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, they're kind of doing like a similar thing. And I'm sure that somebody who I'm sure what's his name? Sadian,
Oh,
right?
Stephen Sayedian. Yeah, yeah.
He
I
probably
thought you
saw
meant the
behind
Marquis de Sade.
Uh, no, he goes by Rinse Dream when
Rin Stream.
he
That's right.
yeah.
I'm
Hmm.
sure he saw beyond behind the green door and is probably like, oh wow, like and it probably like had some type of influence on him one way or the other. And culturally, I think it's cool that the closest thing I could think about was when it was announced that like the Verizon girl or one of the woman who does like one of those phone companies was going to be publishing nude photos for like a charity auction recently, and I think it was the
Was that the
Verizon
Progressive Girl?
Progressive. No, Progressive is Flow, right?
Hmm.
Not her. No, it's like she looks more of like a rom-com like type. It doesn't matter.
I'm not
Like
really well versed in advertising at this point, but
no,
I'll
it's
take your
fine.
word for it.
Yeah, but like that's a recent example of this where you have somebody who's kind of known for like one thing, but actually
Hmm.
her face kind of represents that thing, and then they go off and do something scandalous, right? Sure, Marilyn Monroe is like an obvious example of it or whatever, but like I feel like that doesn't happen a lot. Maybe Sydney Sweeney to some extent, although she's been pretty consistent as being like, scandalous since she came out or whatever. But like
Hmm.
there's not a lot of times where this happens in pop culture. And it's always interesting to me when it does because America has such a dysfunctional relationship to sex. And I think stuff like this really highlights it.
Hmm.
Like, why would it be an issue for Marilyn Chambers to make this movie? Like, anyways, there's like
Hmm.
all sorts of questions that brings up that are just interesting to me. So that backstory is cool, and then the movie is interesting. I think I love um, what's the word? the factory that was in New York with Warhol, and like this movie kind of felt like
Mm,
it could have come out of that maybe. Like his stuff
Yeah.
was so
sure.
loose, like structured, right, narratively. So yeah, I don't know. It really kind of hit a lot of different or checked a lot of different boxes for me, despite the difficulty of watching a woman get raped and learning to like it, which is a difficult topic in and of itself.
Yeah, and it's also just maybe because this was so influential, but that's a trope I've kind of gotten used to in this sort of thing. And, you know, that's a whole can of worms. That's a whole discussion
Sure,
for another day, right? Like,
sure.
I'm not
Yeah.
here to get into like feminist dissertation as to like that sort of representation or whatever. That does bring me to one point that I thought of while I was listening to the short story, because it is probably even worse on this front. It's more detailed and more graphic and more like
Oh.
the inner monologue is incorporated. So like, I was just listening to it like thinking like, oh man, just like some dude's rape fantasy. And then I had to like check myself and be like, you know what? This is an anonymous short story. There's a decent chance the reason it's anonymous is because a woman wrote it and didn't want to take the heat for it.
Mm,
And once I thought about it through that lens, I was kind of like rethinking it a little bit. I don't know. Nobody can know, right? What
sure.
perspective this is coming from. And maybe it shouldn't matter as much as I'm sort of saying it does, but um I don't know. I guess the point I'm arriving at is that everybody's into something and I'm not here to judge, but it is also uncomfortable probably for most people, the premise of this, right?
Of course.
Um yeah.
Can't wait to see how it plays with an audience. They're showing it at the New Beverly as a midnight, and you better believe I'll be there. I've been burning the candle at both ends, watching stuff at home and watching smut in a theater on like beat up
Hmm.
grindhouse style prints. Some are actually in great shape, but yeah, it's been because it's like such once in a lifetime stuff. But yeah, it's funny because some of them I haven't seen, and I have them from Vinegar Syndrome. This is one of the few where I obviously had seen it, but it's like, well, why would I pass up the chance to see this in a theater?
Yeah, sure. I would see it again in a theater for sure.
Yeah,
I shouldn't get us on too many tangents because we have a hard out, but
that's right.
they're doing month number two, and I'm sure you're excited.
Oh yeah, and I'm glad they toned it down on the triple X because I literally was going to like every one, and it was like it was a lot, and like not just in terms of
Hmm.
a lot of porn, but it just like a lot of
Just going
stuff
to
that
the
I had.
theater every day, that's a lot,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. So this month that they thankfully have done a lot of stuff I've even seen in a repertory capacity, so I don't even feel the need, or it's stuff that I know how I feel about it, so I can miss some of it, but still, I would say 30% of that calendar is a can't miss, and there's still like another 20% after that that's like I might still go if I'm up to it that week.
Hmm. I think my last note, unless we have anything else we want to touch on, just being conscious of time, is the booklet. Jared Stearns, I think he
Mm-hmm.
does the audio commentary as well.
Yep, yep.
But he has two essays in this booklet, one of which was written for a magazine and is reproduced here, and one of which is original to this booklet. They're both fantastic. They're both great. I mean, bro literally wrote the book on Marilyn Chambers, so you're not going to get much of a better source than that. But
Yep.
it also helps that he's a good and engaging writer because that's not always the case with academic types. So I recommend that
Yeah,
booklet for sure.
and he's in the features too, and he talks a lot about. There's a couple different people. Stephen Morowitz is in the a couple of the special features too. They kind of just talk about, he covers a lot more of Maryland stuff, but he also lives in the Bay. It sounds like so he talks a lot about porn in San Francisco. It's really a great thing about like just a very comprehensive deep dive into how a place that is pretty as far left as you could be for that time,
Right.
how even for them some of this was a challenge, and how the Mitchell brothers were kind of like, in that same kind of Larry Flint spirit of like taking free speech as much as possible and calling hypocrisy to all the
Mhm.
politicians and religious groups that would attack them.
Right.
And even if they had a really sad ending, but up until then it really is like pretty incredible what they did, and how artistically interesting they are. I don't know when Vinegar Syndrome is going to announce it. What I will say is, and obviously we'll save this for another time, but having watched Resurrection of Eve and uh, another film they made called Sodom and Gomorrah, um,
Hmm.
how much better they got as filmmakers as they went along, and
Oh, for sure. I
it's
can't
like,
I can't I can't imagine they go worse. I'm excited to see
well,
this sort of artistic
Sure.
sensibility with some refinement, you know?
Yeah, I guess it's not that they get worse, but what my fear is with when people are making porn, if I have a fear, it's a weird word, but the thing I worry about is that not that they get worse, but that they get efficient. I don't, you know what I mean? Because
Right.
then you're just talking about someone
You're
who's
right.
making, sex films
Assembly
with
line type
right,
shit, right?
exactly, yeah. So,
Um,
but anywho, yeah, we can that's all I wanted to add to that. But yeah, if you want to move on to the next
yeah,
one,
yeah, yeah, for sure. You know
let's
what?
rock.
Actually, I have two last things.
Sure, yeah, let's do it.
I think I learned on your podcast that Idris Elba named his production company Green Door
Yes.
Productions, and people were
Yeah.
like, "You know what that is, right?" And he was like, "Hell yeah!" I think that's awesome. I
Yeah.
love that.
Well, also,
I just wanted to call that out.
I think this came up as well. John Cena brought it up on a
Uh-huh.
interview he did,
Uh-huh.
and
He said it was one
there,
of his favorite movies.
yeah, and
And so that, yeah.
one of the top reviews on Letterboxd was they just
Hmm.
logged in and said, "I'm here because John Cena told me to," or something, or "I'm just here because of John Cena." Just
Hmm.
hilarious.
And the other one, I didn't get to watch any of the features, but there's one here called Behind the Mitchell Brothers Film Group Preserving a Legacy. That's one I probably want to watch before I pass on this disc. Is it good? Do you have anything to
Yes.
say
Oh,
about it?
100%.
Okay, cool.
That's the one that really covers like what they were about. And it's a very it's very comprehensive, and a perfect primer, I think, for this film and in general, because it just kind of talks about how, and also, like I said, VS has the whole, sorry, this isn't the one about Marilyn Chambers, but this is the one where you get to hear about VS acquiring it and what they
Hmm.
acquired. And like, so it's also like telling you like, hey, this is what to look forward to, but also like, I don't know. It just made me really excited for the rest of the line because they are very interesting filmmakers and they made shorts. So there's obviously going to be some stuff where we're going to get like shorter projects, not feature length stuff, alongside it. So yeah, I'm really, really excited for it, and I think it's the most interesting of the special features.
Well, hell yeah. I think in the standard edition you get this replica Japanese one-sheet poster
Hmm.
and the booklet with the short story, but the short story is online. I just put it into 11 Reader and had it read it to me. So you can get it that way. But the limited edition is down to the last 600 out of 4,000 as of the time I'm recording this. So if you want to read those excellent essays, um, well, I guess you can DM me, but also you should buy
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, don't wait on the sale because this is also a November release,
Hmm.
so I don't even know if it'll be on the halfway
I don't think
sale.
it's gonna make it. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's definitely worth picking up. And I'm glad because they did 4,000 of this one. I'm glad
Hmm.
they're almost out of print with it
Yeah.
because
Yeah, for sure.
yeah. So all right, what do we got next, Celeste?
Next up, let's do Dystropix, the
Great.
adult version of Jekyll and Hyde and the erotic adventures of Zorro. One of the stronger Dystropix releases, in my opinion. I actually think these movies are like really good. And I think I am gonna keep this, and I really like it. I also really love the box art, to be honest. It's way too chunky,
Yeah,
but you know what? It's a vibe. So, yeah,
100%.
I'm a big fan of these movies, honestly.
I had a great time with it. I love this double two. I can kind of get into it a little bit more in a minute. I'll let you kind of take the reins, but I did really like it. I'm just curious, Chris, did you enjoy the double overall?
Yeah, I think I lost a little steam with Zorro, but Jekyll and Hyde was awesome. I had a great time with it.
It's fucking wild. I think I
Yeah.
like Zorro just because of the commitment to like the period and also like literary sort of adaptation. Like it's
Sure.
good. Like it's well made. Like it's a little bit long, but it's also like I don't know, I found it like thought provoking as well and sort of it's I may be overselling it. It's not going to be like a fucking Hollywood masterpiece or anything, but like as far as like what it is, like especially when I'm grading on the Dystropix curve, not to be mean about it, but like it's pretty good,
No,
honestly.
that's the right curve. I think for people listening, it is a good entry level distropix for
Yeah,
I
sure.
think
I
so
agree with
too.
that.
Yeah.
Um, I agree. Zorro is so what I wrote in my letterbox. I remember I put that it's a lot of fun, but it's a lot of movie, and
Hmm.
so when a roughie exceeds even 80 minutes, because most roughies really clock
Yeah.
into like the 75-minute mark usually, and you still feel it then, but when they pass 80 minutes, they kind of have to be earned, and I can't say that this
Hmm.
one earns it. I definitely had even as a real, I consider myself a real head for these.
Sure.
I definitely struggled a little, but uh, like I also, and I felt this way about Jekyll and Hyde as well, even though I liked it a lot more. Um, Both of these felt like they really wanted to be hardcore, and I feel like if they were, they actually would have had more of a reputation.
Hmm. I,
Hmm. I think so too, but I kind of like that they go as hard as they do and they are as bizarre as they are in the sort
Sure.
of sexploitation context because I think it does kind of skirt the line a couple times pretty
Oh
close.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, 100%. And I think they
can I
confirm it.
call? Oh yeah, can I call out the tagline for the adult version of Jekyll and Hyde, which is so
Yes.
awesome. It is a tale of hex and sex rated X. I love that. That's
Oh,
so good.
beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, definitely the better of the two, and um, it's interesting. It's not like with both of these. The thing with a lot of roughies too, they can be not necessarily inept, but maybe a little unwieldy. Um,
Hmm.
I think this is like really good and trashy in the right ways.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, it's the softcore stuff where I feel like it drags a little bit, but no pun
Hmm.
intended
For
with this
sure.
plot.
No, it
But
does. Yeah, in looking at my ratings, I gave this one a 6 and I gave Zorro a 7. But in retrospect, I remember more of Jekyll and Hyde. So I don't know. This is one of those things. But the thing I want to say about this, and the thing that is touched on in one of the booklet essays, is that this movie is actually like queer as fuck and like gay as shit.
yep.
They go there, and like the fact that I was like shocked. I was like, whoa, like homeboy is like inhabiting a woman and he's like blowing dudes, and I'm like, this is awesome. Like I did not
Hmm.
expect this to go there,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
it does. It's like a fucking transcoded, like gay coded sort of
Yep.
literary adaptation in a softcore 70s film, and I'm like, there's a lot going on here and I appreciate it. um yeah, pacing was a little bit dragged a little bit for me, but like I think on a rewatch I think I'll appreciate it more. And I don't know. I appreciate the audaciousness and the just kind of like, yeah, whatever, we're gonna do this. Like, who cares? Maybe it'll make our audience
Yeah.
uncomfortable, but fuck it.
I
Yeah.
think it's.
Oh,
Oh,
go
sorry,
ahead,
go ahead.
Chris. No, no, no. You go ahead.
Okay, well, I'll be quick. Anyways, I just think that like there's maybe the guy that makes the oh shoot, I can't believe I forgot his name now, but At Night Will Come for the Cemetery, the Brazilian director who made all those cemetery movies. Oh shoot. Anyways, there's I'll think of the name here in just a second. But there's the Arrow put out that giant box set of his movies.
The
Oh,
Coffin Joe movies?
Coffin Joe.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I was like,
Okay.
wait, I know who you're talking about, but
Coffin
why?
Joe. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
That okay, the Coffin Joe films. I think it has a similar vibe to that in that it's like this
Hmm.
eccentric lead. Although Coffin Joe is not necessarily going here as far as sex, it is a sleazier series in times. But like I just think that I love that maybe even a little bit like Rocky Horror Picture Show, although obviously it's not as extreme, but I like it when there's something where there's an eccentric lead who doesn't necessarily fit how you would expect him to be as a lead, but in a bigger way within the confines of the story, he fits perfectly and he kind of makes it, or the
Hmm.
lead makes it work. And it doesn't
Hmm.
happen a lot, but there, I love that they just kind of, like Celeste, you said it well, like they just go for it. And I think it works, and it makes it a very fun watch.
Yeah, this is also, I mean, it's a roughie for sure. Like there's some rough shit that happens in this. So like, if you're trying to get turned on, I guess be aware of that. But if you're into like crazy fucked up movies, like this is a strong contender for one that you should pick up, I think.
Yeah.
I think the reason why people used to be able to crank their hogs to this, for lack of a better term, is that um, like the options were so few back
Yeah.
then that
Hmm.
it's I don't think you calculate it the same way where you're like, well, I don't want to see
No.
this rough stuff. I want to wait until I can find a good cuck scene or something. You know what I mean? Like it's
No,
just
yeah,
it didn't
uh-huh.
exist. So it's like it's such a different ball game.
No, for sure. It's like I'm here. What else am I gonna do?
Right,
Right?
right,
Like,
right,
you know,
right.
we're not hurting for options in the year of our Lord 2026 for this sort of thing. But had to take what you could get in 1972 when you bought a ticket already, right?
Right.
Um, so I guess I don't know. I guess I always feel the need to kind of temper my recommendation depending on what you're looking for. Like if you just want a crazy exploitation movie that goes there, you should definitely check this out.
Yep.
Um, I will shout out the booklets There's two of them. There's a the bane of my existence, these perfectly bound books, which I'm gonna start calling the imperfectly bound books because they're such a fucking pain to actually like read and scan and all this. But there's one of those, and then there's a booklet inside that has a pretty lengthy write up on I think all seven of the main female stars that appear in these two films.
Hmm.
Pretty good. And then the imperfect book has an essay by Lisa Petrucci, which is excellent. I just always love reading her writing, and it's just a really great love letter to fuck, I forgot his name.
Oh, David
David
Friedman.
Friedman. Yep. It's great. It's just a really great like history slash memoir essay, and I loved it. And then the third one is from an academic talking about some of the queer subtext. It's not very long, it doesn't go very deep, but I'm glad it's acknowledged in their
Yeah.
writing here, right? And there's two commentaries that I didn't have time to go over, but they are with Mike Vrani and David Friedman, so probably worth checking out if you
Yeah.
are a fan of either of those people. Did either of you get to watch those?
Yeah, so I didn't, yes, I didn't, sorry, I should say I didn't listen to the commentary. I did go through the booklet and
Hmm.
I agree. Like it's very, it gives you context specifically because, oh, you know what? That's not true. I did listen to the beginning of the Jekyll and Hyde commentary now that I remember. The problem is the audio on it, through specifically through my
Uh,
sound bar had like it almost sounded like they were on the phone, which is not the case. It's just I think
hmm.
it's an archival commentary back when they recorded them a
Yeah,
little
it is.
differently. So it just sounded a little like it was actually unpleasant to it was like it sounded a little piercing to me. Um
Hmm.
that
That
said,
happens.
yeah, and the booklet itself though is great because I just watched to just to go back to that New Bev thing for a second. They did a David Friedman double of that AGFA double that they put out, a the Defilers and A Smell of Honey, A Swallow of Brine. And boy, did his style change in those years as a producer and as a director, but or I should say as a producer. But what's interesting is that watching those, it's very similar in that they kind of give you the best versions of whatever you're watching in terms of those kinds of roughies. But here, because these are shot in color and they're restored from their negative, they look so good. And reading up on like kind of what kind of Carney Corman he is, because he has a
Hmm.
carnival background, and he was literally a carnival barker. So to
Yeah.
put this like Corman style filmmaker or producer into like a Carney's body
Yeah.
is so fascinating because you
Yeah.
absolutely understand how there's a movie that's giving you what you want, but also a hell of a salesman giving you this great. The artwork, as far as I could tell, wasn't was borrowed pretty heavily from the original posters.
Yep.
So, he obviously had a say in that. He knows how to pull people with this stuff.
All right. Any last thoughts, or should we take a trip to Japan?
Yeah. Let's
Already.
go to
Bags
let's
packed.
go. Let's
Passport
go
All
to
signed.
right.
let's go to Connie City.
Kani City. All right, I'll do that one first.
Oh, I was
Because we
there
have
another one?
two titles from Japan this time.
Geez, I forgot. Oh, whichever one you wanted to start with. I'm sorry. That was my bad.
That's okay. No, you're good. Let's do it. Top
Okay, cool.
Stripper and Pink Cut, Love Me Hard, Love Me Deep. It's a fucking sick title. And this
Yeah.
artwork on the slipcover, bro. Goddamn, it's sold out. So sorry to flex on you right now, but like shit. Like
So
to the
good.
audience, I mean, but like goddamn. But I will say it is they're both there in the reversible. So like you'll be okay. Ah, there's a booklet in here. I forgot about it. I thought that there was no features. So I dropped the ball. I didn't read the booklet. That was a fun surprise for me. But so like, you'll be okay if you get the standard edition, unless you're like a real slip pervert. But these movies, I don't know. I don't have a ton to say about them. I continue to be a little bit at arm's length in terms of my emotional sort of connection and sort of intellectual appreciation of the sort of pink stuff and the Roman porno. I think it's still a learning curve that I have not fully bridged yet, but so I just think that these both are like fine and they're, interesting and worthwhile for what they are in terms of like a 60-minute sexy romp. But I'm curious what y'all have to say about it.
Well, I think I know which one you like more, Eli, and I think I'm the opposite.
Hmm.
So I'm curious if my memory of our conversations is true. I think that Top Stripper is good, and I had a great time with it, and I'm happy to get into it more. But I think Pink Cut is such a pleasant, like fun,
Hmm.
charming movie that it's like a wonderful introduction to Roman porno. It's this whole area of Japanese history is so interesting to me. And like, it's not like they're just, like the fact that it's such a constricted culture in some ways or restrictive culture in some
Hmm.
ways, but at the same time, they have such a different so because it's restrictive, there's a certain perception of what I think they're going to value as an American, and it just
Right.
doesn't translate. Like they have a different view on sex culturally than we do, and it's not like I think it's I don't know that we have anything in the US history that sort of mirrors the Roman porno stuff as far as being theatrical and doing well and making a lot of money for studios and not seeming to be that controversial, at least in the same way that it would have been here. So I just
Right.
think there's like an
Hmm.
interest there for me, and I love the fact that they didn't make sex seem like Pink Cut doesn't make sex seem dirty or salacious at all. Like it's just fun, and like it helps this woman open up, and like she's becoming more of her full self when she can like express that sexuality, and it's I don't know, I like it. Like it was fun.
Yeah, I liked Pink Cut. I did, but yeah, you nailed it. I think it's of the two because and the special features kind of confirm this. I believe it's in the booklet. And an interview with the director's widow, which was that he made Top Stripper, and then they were like, "Hey, we'll give you a little more money to make one more movie." And so
Hmm.
he didn't cobble this together, but it obviously wasn't the one where he had a lot on his mind. Now that being said, I like that the direction he chose to go was to make something for especially for a Roman porno incredibly wholesome.
Yeah.
It has
Hmm.
this very, very radiantly charming dance number at the end. Literally, like for the credits, there it's like a what you would find in a musical. And it even
Hmm.
has a very cute outtake when all the confetti's coming down and one of it like lands in the lead's mouth and she has to like spit it out. And they left it
Hmm.
in. And I think that really adds to the charm of this movie that's like both horny and silly and Kani's been really good at finding these.
Yeah,
I talked about
exactly.
this. I talked about this. I think in the review episode we did in our last recap episode. But I just watched, and I'm not going to shut up about this the whole year until we get to the end of the year rankings. But they just put out a movie called New Love in Tokyo, which I'll be very hard pressed to if they put out a better release this year. And honestly, as a partner title, will easily be, if not at the top, very close to it. Calling it now, but it's a similar thing where it's this very sex positive movie, but those words didn't exist at the time
Yeah.
together, right? And so that
Hmm.
term was like, so it's this movie that is um it's still I'm not going to say that it's made for everybody, but it obviously still has the guys in mind. This one's definitely for the fellas to crank one out to. But it's still yeah, it has a very unique. I don't know. I haven't seen anything like it, so the fact that it still works gets a couple extra points for me for that reason. Um, and uh, as far as Top Stripper goes, I the reason I responded to it a lot more is because it still has this that same upbeat tone that Pink Cut has,
Hmm.
but specifically amongst the sex workers.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and everybody is watching each other's backs and doing the best they can with what they have, and even the tone has this pretty upbeat thing to it, but
Yeah.
it's incredibly, incredibly sober and grounded about the work they do and the world outside of their camaraderie.
Right.
And it's not a hostile world, but matter of factly, it is a certain type of world that to this day still exists. And these things are transactional, no matter what other way you want to put it, it's still a business. So, and it's very clear eyed about that. But what I like is it doesn't find any kind of, it finds happiness in that. Um, You know, the thing I thought about actually, now that we're talking about it, you know, we just had that episode with Alex Phillips from who directed Anything That Moves, and something I've been thinking about since that interview is you know, because that movie has this wholesome core to it. That's the word I used when we talked to him, and uh, what I really appreciate. I'm trying to like do this as concisely as possible, but you know, he said the title of the movie came from Blue Velvet, and Blue Velvet's the opposite. Blue Velvet's this movie that has this 50s sheen, but it's doing a Reagan interrogation, right? So it's finding literally at the beginning, it tells you what it's up to. It goes into the dirt and where all the bugs are. So Anything That Moves was the opposite, where it's this world that has it's got a lot of wholesome stuff, but it's got a world that can be an unkind place, and it's all about finding love where you can, as he put it. That really unlocks the whole movie, and I think that applies here. It's not really about finding these things where you can, but it's a matter of, you know, this is the safest place for these people, and there's a world out there that isn't as kind to them, and that has people who attach to them parasocially, and you know, but there, I don't know, the director's never a sadist about it, or, you know, it's not like a director we're going to talk about shortly, Satô, where he implicates himself in his own, in the more sadistic stuff that shows up. It's just, I don't know. I really like that. It just works really well. And it's quite a find for that reason to me.
I will say, I think if you were to just strictly look at from like a filmmaking perspective, I guess Top Stripper is, I think, clearly the better movie. I will say that. Like, I think the characters are written in a way where there's more depth to them. You get the history of them immediately, and the interaction between the customers and the strippers is awesome. Like, it's done very well, and they don't ever have to over explain anything. They just let it play out, and we all know exactly what's going on. And I there's a movie I want to see. I was reading some stat the other day. You know, in Medellin, Colombia alone, there's over 600,000 women on webcams. And there's some movie that's going to be made coming up in the next few years looking at a very similar dynamic, because, you know, people fall in love with webcam models all the time, right? That's a very common thing. And like, that's kind of what Top Stripper is getting at, right? In a earlier version of that. So anyways, I love it.
Yeah, I think I think that, I guess I should say at the jump, these are my first Roman porno movies. Just as the Satô movies were my first pink films. Yeah, these are my first Roman pornos. And I had kind of thought that these were going to be more like the differential for me that I had understood was that not only are these like specifically from one production company, right? But like, it's just like a more ornate, high budget version of like the pink genre. And I didn't find that here. I was like, these feel still pretty like rough around the edges, pretty low budget, but they're way more digestible. You know, they're way more like they don't exist to make you feel like shit. They more exist to give you a good experience, you know? And to me, I think Top Stripper is the better, more interesting film, but Pink Cut is the one that had the more memorable images. I think that the really like bright lighting and the sort of like fantasy-esque sequence of like the barber shop is really quite striking, and the artwork really does a great job of capturing it. But I think you know, I'll just be honest, I didn't love these movies, but I think that they are really interesting, and I think that other people, I mean, it sounds like you both really love them, so like I'm not going to sit here and be like, yeah, don't buy this. I think, you know, I think it's great that they're out. I think I hope that they do more of these, and again, it might be the sort of thing where in 5 years I'm going to be like, the fuck were you talking about? These movies fucking rip. Like, you just weren't used to the style yet, you know? So yeah, I think it's, you know, you can't form an opinion on something that you've never seen. So I'm really happy that these things are finally coming out and we can engage with them, you know?
Yeah.
35-minute cum shot at Top Stripper probably didn't help.
No, I didn't. You know, it was behind the runtime. I was like, come on, y'all.
behind the pink door. Well, you know, I do think that you're right. It's good entry level Roman porno. That said, if people want to like get more into Roman porno, 88 Films is going to be your, if you have a region free player. A lot of Roman porno doesn't really make its way to US releases now that I'm thinking about it, right? It's like there, aside from maybe
I think it's going to start happening. But I
Oh,
don't think it's really been at all,
no,
yet.
for sure. I mean, because there's some stuff. I know Pink Films already have been making their way through like Mondo, some of Error,
Mhm.
but yeah, but like a lot of Nikatsu stuff. That's not true actually. Synapse did have I forget the name of the sub label that they released them under. It starts with an I.
Interscope, I think, or something.
No, no, it's not Interscope. It's like Image or,
Okay,
yeah, yeah. Um, a
I
lot of
think a bunch of them
those,
came out on DVD, but I don't think Blu-ray has really been
yeah,
mined yet.
it was, yeah, I'm just forgetting Impulse Pictures. That's the,
Hmm.
that's the name of the line actually they did put out a pretty decent selection of, Roman pornos, even on Blu-ray. Actually, some of the real rough ones too, like what's it called? Star of David, Beauty Hunter. One of the
Oh, Jesus.
right.
Sam Deegan was talking about that on her year-end or like year-end sort of episode. And I mean, if she's telling somebody that shit's fucking rough, like,
Yeah, yeah.
proceed with
It's
caution. I want to see it. But
100%. It is. I've seen it. I haven't logged it on Letterboxd because I saw it too long ago and I need to rewatch it.
hmm
But it's it's not entry level. I'll tell you that.
hmm
It's definitely a step above uh,
Yeah.
most of the popular ones. But yeah, there are a lot, and you can surprisingly get them on like Amazon and stuff.
hmm
But yeah, so I do think this is good entry level. But if you have a region free player and you don't want to wait, you can definitely get like stuff from 88 Films. They have a whole Roman porno line. I know New Wave Video just announced None Rope in Hell. So and that's region free, but they're definitely
Shout out New
making their
Wave.
way. They're making their way out there. So it's
Yeah, I guess
definitely
I didn't mean to say that Roman porno necessarily implies like a lighter tone. But, I'm going based on like one director each for like Pink Film versus Roman porno, specifically. So
right.
yeah. Well,
don't listen
it's
to
hard.
me is what I'm saying on my own podcast.
Well, it's hard not to think of it that way because they, when you see what Satô does and what Pink Films are, Nakatsu's a studio that is very
Hmm.
well collect. The Janus Library here with Criterion has quite a few of their things, so
Right.
it's hard not to think of them in terms of like
Hmm.
ele- elevated porno, even. But the
Hmm.
truth is, there's some pretty fucking heavy duty shit, and that's where Naomi Tani really. Where she cut her teeth, and a lot of other well-known actors from there. So, speaking of Pink,
I
great,
was gonna say that's as good a transition as any.
yeah,
Into, swear to God, I can never get his first name right. The films of Hisayasu Sato,
nailed it.
Volume 2. Thank you. We have an aria on Gazes, which is a great title, and
Hmm.
Love Minus Zero Equals Infinity, which is a less great title. I don't know what it means, but it is interesting. It is intriguing. You know what I mean? It doesn't
Well,
make sense to me, but
you kind of nailed it here. Like, I think both of these films are pretty well, more so one than the other. But this is a pretty opaque set. Like, I think
Yeah.
the
it sure
first
is.
the first volume is a great entry level Sato, like a primer. This, on the other hand, kind of is the inverse. Like, this is not for the uninitiated, but not because the content's more objectionable. It's just that it
Mhm.
kind of it's just, and this is just an overall, because obviously we're going to talk about the films individually, but yeah, it's not entry level, and it also, if you've watched his other movies, it feels like he's playing the hits again.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? Like
I liked this set a lot less than the first one. I'm still gonna hang
Yeah,
on to it because I think it is again something I may appreciate more in retrospect. And
yeah.
also, if I'm gonna keep the third one, my brain won't let me get rid of the second one.
Exactly.
But
Right, right.
it's man, they are. If the first volume was like tough to follow, this one was like even worse for me. And like, yeah, I guess there's only two of them, so like it's easier in that sense. But
Right.
like, okay, I guess let's just go into it a little bit. And Arya and Gazes is the one that was easier for me to understand because it is such a simple premise. But this is basically like have either of you seen the film? I think it's called Sleeping Beauty,
Uh, um,
2011.
yep, I
It's
know the movie you're
IFC
talking
put it
about.
out.
Yep, I haven't
I
seen
like
it.
that movie a lot.
But yeah, I've heard good things about it.
I like it a lot. It's been put out by IFC under OCN, and I recommend it.
Okay.
But it's it's that premise essentially where these women are sort of, gosh, it's not even clear in this. It's clear in Sleeping Beauty. It's not as clear in this one whether or not this is consensual. But like basically, men pay to have sex with women who are unconscious, right?
Yeah.
And it's just in this like pitch black sort of like neon lit room, and you just kind of go in and out of that with like, I don't know, help me out here. I'm getting the two confused in my mind on like what happens in which, or I guess the five films I've seen at this
Yeah, I
point are
think
starting
I
to
think
blend a little bit, you know?
Chris, I'll let you take this one, not because I can't keep up with it, but because I want to talk more about my feelings than I do about what the movie's up
It's
to, I
okay.
guess.
No, no. So this is infamous because the guy who was the lead in this movie
Hmm.
Uh-huh,
later
yeah, you're getting to
later was
that. It's,
arrested as
oof.
being a cannibal.
I think that happened first.
Okay, well, I don't know exactly the timing of it, so maybe
Which
it's
is what makes it so fucked up, is I'm pretty sure he was hired because he was literally a cannibal, like rapist serial killer. It's
yeah,
so fucking crazy that
yeah,
that he did that. And he did
yeah,
it more than once too, which is the thing. But like, could
exactly.
you imagine being the actress on set that day and being like, "What am I doing today?" And you're like, "So we hired the literal most famous cannibal on earth, and he's gonna bite your ass on camera." I would have been like, "Are you like, no, I'm not doing. There's no money. There's no amount of money. Well, there's probably an amount of money, but like the amount of money that you have is not going to be enough to make me fucking do
Yeah,
that. You know what I mean? Like,
no,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah, I knew that going in, and what's I at some point the movie's so weirdly, because the movie is so opaque that I kind of forgot
mhm.
about that halfway through
Right,
the movie.
right,
Like,
right,
Me
because
right.
too.
I was so, like, I don't know, and that speaks to the volume of the film. Like, it obviously did its job, right? Because
Hmm.
it did hypnotize me,
Hmm.
but for no other reason than it just has a hypnotic quality to it. It obviously is more of just a sensory experience. I imagine this screened here, um, and I missed it. I think actually when we were talking earlier, Celeste, about or pre-recording, one of the things I missed was this, and no, it was Turtle Vision, which I
Mm.
loved, but I don't want to jump too far ahead there, but. I do want to see how this would play in a theater because it's such a sensory experience, and excuse me, I think that it obviously has something to do with numbing yourself, very literally,
Hmm.
to and upping the stakes for sex to make things more exciting, but also there's the voyeurism element, and that to me, I couldn't help but think like, well, he's done the voyeurism element already. I've seen it. I've seen him do better versions of this. The thing that I figured out once I got to volume three, without spoiling anything, is that's not going to go away. What
That
makes
seems to be the singular thing he's interested
right,
in
but
is
however,
voyeurism, you know?
yes. That said, when he cooks with this idea, he's cooking with gas.
Hmm.
I just don't think here he's fully. I think this is the only time he's at a simmer with these things because
I don't think
what
it's a bad thing. I think it's okay
no,
to have a
it's
singular focus across a career. I just
sure.
like, it's obvious to me that that's like what he's interested in, you know?
Right. And when you watch it and again, I'm trying not to because I know the third volume will come up later, but my point being is it works really well within the movies of that set. So when
Mm.
you're when and so I'm kind of glad this one existed now to get me back on track because it made me appreciate volume three even more and volume one even
Hmm.
more. Um, because yeah, I mean his filmography is so prolific. How wouldn't he have a couple of misses, right? It's just
Yeah,
you'd think that'd be for volume five, not for volume two,
sure.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
there's a strategy to curation though, and I do think if they felt like this was a weaker set, that there is some value in putting it early on when you have a lot of momentum, right? Because you still have
hmm
people that are like it's still selling well. I will say the cinematography in this movie reminded me a lot of Kieslowski's Blue,
Mm.
and
mm,
that is widely considered to be one of the most beautifully shot films of the 20th century. And
Yeah.
I do think that I do want to give at least some credit to Sato for making his movies something that are very beautiful to watch, even if the content is dark.
Yeah, for sure.
It's clear that he's an artist first, and I think
Yeah.
like he's intentionally trying to be subversive, right? And he's clearly, even with the cannibal thing, but like all of his movies, he's trying to be subversive, and I think he's obsessed with the idea. Voyeurism, I think, is part of it. The way he talks about it is the interaction we have where there's a screen in front of us all the time. So this was even
Mhm.
back then where he's
Hmm.
obsessed with the idea of screens, right? So who knows what he's thinking now? But
Yeah.
like, like he was obsessed with this idea that we're always being watched or watching something. And so he's I think he's the way he talks about it is very openly voyeuristic and very openly about
Mhm.
the fact that we're always being watched, and um, but we're still
It's a
shy.
good thing that's a non-issue now,
Yeah,
the
exactly.
surveillance state and all that.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
kind of old
Yeah.
hat at this point to think about that. Anyway, I don't want it to seem like I think these movies are bad or I think you should skip this. I think that these movies are I think they're good movies. They're just so challenging on so many different
Yeah.
levels that like
Yeah.
it's harder for me to recommend it than the first set. I don't think I would recommend this set over the first one to anybody, especially not to start with. But
No, for sure.
and like I'm sitting here like it's probably extremely morally questionable to cast a real cannibal in your film, eating ass. But
Yeah.
like there is the part of me that's like I'm always kind of jonesing for like that next extreme thing that I could find in a movie, and like it's you're getting pretty up there. It's like to really imagine if like, Jeffrey Dahmer didn't go to prison because he was like, declared insane or whatever. And like, I
Somebody
don't know.
cast him.
Literally, like Lars von Trier was like, "Hey, come be in my movie," and like, you're gonna like get out the knife and fork, and like it's gonna be a whole thing. Like that's just so insane. I can't even like wrap
Yeah.
my mind around it.
Yeah.
This is
No,
an
this
Yeah.
aside, and we don't have time for asides, but I'm going to do it anyway. Have either of you seen the film Cannibal? I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. It's from 2017. It's a
no.
documentary film about this
No.
person.
Mm-mm.
It's maybe the most uncomfortable thing I've ever watched in my life, not just because of the content, but the way it is shot is so oppressively close up and gross. I gave it a 2 out of 10 because I think it's such an unpleasant watching experience and also pretty morally questionable, but it is among the most confronting, subversive, and interesting documentaries I think I've ever seen. So like
Wow.
I don't not recommend it. It's a lot, but I knew a lot about this person going in, and so when I read that that's who it was, I was like pretty taken aback. But I don't know if that's a recommendation, but it's a this document does exist. If you want to go see it, I have considered rewatching it, but it is just such a viscerally uncomfortable experience that it is challenging. I guess we should move on to love minus zero equals infinity, though I see you want to have one last point, which
Oh no, I'm
I will
sorry. I thought
grant
we were
you.
before we leave Japan. I have one thing I want to throw in, but let's talk about Love Minus Zero first, because
Okay, yeah.
this movie for me is the more difficult one to remember. I actually watched
I
it
think so
twice,
too.
and I
I
still
even
can't
though it's the
remember it.
more plot heavy one, like I just couldn't tell you what
Yeah,
happened. Like there's a vampire, there's like
yeah,
a slight detective element to it. There's like blood
right.
transfer. I don't know, man. It's there's a
Well,
great point in the essay about it, but I'll let Eli talk about it because it sounds like you have more to say.
yeah, I think this is the weaker of the two as well. But what I remember about it, what I kind of did appreciate about it is that it what it does do with the voyeur element is it's a person who follows other people, and he kind of happens. It's kind of like Christopher Nolan's Following, where a guy follows a random person sort of and ends up. I haven't seen
Mhm.
Following in 20 years, but I just remember, he obviously ends up in someone else's story almost. Um, and he watches people with a camera, and it ends up being basically a allegory. It ends up dealing with the very early 90s scare of AIDS. I mean, this was something that was already scary in the 80s,
Yeah.
but it obviously in Japan it was being dealt with different in the kind of, it sounds like, in the same way it was in America, which is it was treated as a bad, as like a failing on a person's part getting it.
Right.
And so
There's always a moral component to disease, which is
right,
problematic and frustrating and also kind of understandable, right? Anyway, that's a whole topic.
right. So it kind of makes it also blends vampirism, almost like Habit, where it's this
Hmm.
thing about uh, vampirism as a disease, overlapping with AIDS, and
Mhm.
Beyond that, what I kind of I think the movie was very visually exciting again, but I think because even though obviously HIV and there's PrEP now and there's ways to kind of live with it in undetectable terms, uh, I don't think that cheapens this any less, but I don't feel any heightened sense of I don't know it feels almost more artifactual than it does compelling,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm,
So
mhm.
I think so.
and it's still an hour and it goes right. These all, for better or worse, go down fairly easy on those terms.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think overall that's pretty much all I had to say about it because I think that I it's nice to know what I did. The other thing that really drew me in is it's nice to know that that he could just at any point he could have just thrown his hands up and be like, I'm going to make a quote unquote real movie or a non-pink film. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like
Mhm.
he could have, this totally did not have to be a pink film at all. You could make that argument for a lot of his movies probably, but I think a lot of the times he knows how to fuse them. This one, on the other hand, feels like he had a movie in mind, and he just contractually made it a pink film when he
Yeah.
had to.
Sure.
More
Mhm.
so than the other ones. I feel like that's like underlined in marker.
No, this does
That's
have, and that's a great transition to the main point I wanted to make, which is this does have the skeleton of a more traditional narrative feature.
mhm.
And I really want to call out, excuse me, the essay from Felipe Furtado is so fucking good in this booklet. And the thing that he points out that nailed what has been so challenging for me about these films, he talks about the film The Sicilian, where
Mm.
contractually he was not allowed to make the director's name is Michael Cimino.
Oh,
Did
Michael
my best.
Cimino.
Cimino, thank you. Contractually, the film was only supposed to be 120 minutes max. So he got his director's cut together, which was 2 hours 20. And then he was like, cool, that's the movie I made. That's the movie I'm going to make. And so he, for the producers, made a 2 hour cut. Sorry, my cat is on the verge of knocking over my webcam. We're good. He made the 2 hour cut, but he cut out all the action scenes. So the film is unwatchable to the producers. It's like,
Oh, wow.
Wait, sorry, I think I missed my audio dropped. What is this, Heaven's Gate, or which Cimino film is this?
The Sicilian.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Sorry. Okay, got it.
So he makes a cut without any of the action, and the producers are like, "This sucks." And he's like, "Cool, I could put the action back, but it's going to be over 20. It's going to be over 2 hours." And so they let him do it, and that was his workaround for it. And it feels like this is not a point that I'm making. This is a point that I'm repeating because I think it's really sharp. Is that Sato seems to do the opposite, where he leaves in all the lurid stuff. He leaves in all the sex, all the like, the stuff you paid for, but all that stuff in between that like builds characters, that assigns motivation, that kind of lets you get to point A to point B is all cut out. And you're just
Mhm.
sat there to like kind of try and figure it out yourself. Like, I guess I
Hmm.
have to infer. As an autistic person, I struggle with that. And so I think these films are tailor-made to be confusing for me personally, but I do have to admire how different they are and what the challenge that they afford. Even if at the end of the day that means a month later I cannot tell you for the life of me what happens in these movies.
Well, yeah, I mean, overall, it's kind of the same thing you guys were talking about, where like they obviously curated it in a certain way because it did still leave me excited for the next volume. I wasn't like
Yeah,
it
yeah.
didn't deter me or make me be like, all right, I'll hold off. It actually, on the other hand, made me be like, all right, let's see, because I knew. Turtle Vision is often considered one of his best. So as soon as I saw that, I was like, okay, cool. Whatever this is. And then I remember just seeing the trailer for it. I was like, oh, there's shit in here, even by his terms, I haven't even seen yet. So I'm really excited for it. And then it was like one of the first things I wanted to dive into when I got it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm glad this also seems to be the general consensus on this volume, which is kind of a good thing because nobody was like, "Oh, this was a waste of time" or "This sucked."
Hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
Just weaker than volume one.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else? Because I just want to give a really quick honorable
No,
mention
go
to
for it.
something.
And then I
Sure.
don't have
Yeah.
a ton
Yeah.
to say about our last title. So as long as we can get it done in 15 minutes, we're good.
Awesome. 15 minutes with you, starting in about 8 minutes.
Exactly.
Nailed it.
Exactly.
Oh man, good stuff.
I just want to call it Film Movement Classics. It's not an adult title per se, but it's
Mm,
Love's Whirlpool. And I'm holding it up
mm,
because I think there's going to be video with this, right? So
Hmm.
I just want to call it out and say people should watch it because it's all about an underground sex club in Japan where people go and pay cash and they're there to have sex with strangers for that night. So they it starts from
Hmm.
like let's say midnight to 5 a.m. or 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. or something like that. Celeste Cat just knocked over Eli's camera.
Yeah, he's really talented, you know.
um, but it's this really like raw, emotionally raw exploration of the like um what's the word? The insecurities people bring into something like that. Like it doesn't
Hmm.
romanticize this sex club at all. It's
Hmm.
like it's just this like raw emotional nerve for an hour and a half or 2 hours or whatever it is. And I think
That
it's
sounds
made
great.
really well. And there is a lot of nudity and sex in it if that's what you're going for. Typical Japanese, like there's no penetration, but um, it's definitely like a softcore movie with quite a lot of nudity in it. But it's not about that at all. Like it's a very,
Mm,
very good character study. And I think it's under discussed, and I think people should watch it.
hell yeah. I wish it
Um,
was on the Melusine site so I could have reviewed it, but I'll have to
There
check it
you go.
out sometime.
Yeah, yeah.
well, I guess while we're doing the call outs real quick before we bring it home, um, another one that so there's two titles I actually just want to really quick shout out here. One was a little older. It I think came out last summer, but I picked it up during the V-Day sale, and it was A Life in Dirty Movies about the Sarnos.
I was
Oh,
shocked that didn't show up on the Melusine site because I was like,
Yeah,
oh, I want to see
same,
that, but oh
same.
well.
And I loved it.
That's
Great
awesome.
documentary. Yeah, it's just, well, it ends up becoming more about Peggy Steffens Sarno, his wife.
Hmm.
It kind of, it doesn't, because Joe is he's already very old in the movie and he kind of, he's not far from passing away. And their conversations, like Peggy is so clear eyed and it's an incredible I just think it's really relevant to Melusine, obviously, because Distrapix has some Joe Sarno movies, and Vinegar Syndrome obviously has a history of putting out his stuff. So, highly
Right.
recommend that documentary. If you can't fork out the money, it's been on sale every not just during the halfway stuff, but every subscriber sale and the V-Day sale, it's been at least half off. So, I'd recommend picking it up just for because you get slightly longer interviews on the special features. But if you don't want to do that, if you have a Canopy streaming service, it's on Canopy.
Mm.
It's not even 80, I think barely 80 minutes, and it's great. And even though it was already released, the Melusine and Vinegar Syndrome did put out an alternate slipcover, a variant for Orgy of the Dead, and a movie that Ed Wood wrote. It's often associated with him, but it was actually directed by A.C. Stevens, who also directed, which I believe his real name's Stephen Apostoloff is the name he goes by. I'm trying to remember if that's right, but anyway, um, he it might as well, for all intents and purposes, be an Ed Wood film. Stephen C. Apostoloff is his real name, but they collaborated on a few movies together: Fugitive Girls, Orgy of the Dead, and it's not for everybody. It's definitely just a distilled nudie cutie, just in a graveyard with a lot of gothic imagery. It's great to have on in the background of a party with the right people attending, and there's a great commentary with Frank Henenlotter and Rudolph Gray, who was Ed Wood's biographer, and the Vampira isn't in this, but there is a variation on Vampira that I absolutely love with this movie. So the variant is the only thing that's available. You can't even buy the standard or
Oh
just
damn.
the OG slipcover. That's been out of print for a while, but when it's on sale, it's like $17. Totally worth it. If I think people who know whether or not they like Ed Wood stuff will know if they dig this,
Hmm.
but it's definitely you definitely feel the running time. It's 90 minutes, but it doesn't sound like an endorsement, but I love it. So
Well, they
yeah.
back in the day they did three mini slipcovers. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. Vinegar Syndrome. It was a merch item.
Yes. I do remember that.
And I found them on eBay very cheap, and I bought them. And it was the Uninvited, uh,
Orgy of the Dead.
Incubus, and Orgy of the Dead. And the
That's
Orgy of the
right.
Dead is the only one that I don't have, like the real version of it. So I've been on the lookout for it. But I'll check it out. Okay, last one. Whoever does the artwork for this Delirium home video puts titties on every single one of the slipcovers. So let me be
Yep.
strategic. But this is Doriana Gray, and then here's the back, which is also pretty steamy. Jess Franco, love him or hate him, can't really avoid him in this space as he's made a
Yeah,
lot of
that's for
movies,
sure. Well,
and he has a very strong following.
real quick, the slipcover was designed by Suspiria Vilches. I hope I'm pronouncing the last name
Okay,
correct.
right
But
on.
I remember Suspiria's done a few things for them, and they've all been bangers.
Yeah,
I
they're.
think I think
I don't know
I think
this person's gender, but I
yeah,
don't
I
know
don't
what.
either.
But
But
their artwork is really good.
yeah, they did. I believe the nesting and something
Yep.
else from around that period, and good stuff. Shout out to Suspiria, great name too.
Hell yeah. It
Um,
is.
so yeah, I this was the first partnership between Delirium and Vinegar Syndrome slash Melusine. For people who don't know, Delirium was going to do their own distribution, and they had some weird thing with their art covers last summer where they
Mhm.
were like AI coded, like they used AI. So like there's a shot of something with Lena Romay where she has like six toes or something like that and four fingers, or they
I
basically ended up
think I'm gonna I'm
recalling.
gonna be real bold right now. Okay, I'm gonna burn our audience right now. I think having an AI generated slipcover of Lena Romay with six toes is awesome. I think that should have been on sale. That's so sick.
Well, it's like a collector's item now because a few did go out in the
Uh-huh.
wild through Diabolic, I believe, and
Well, there
then
you go.
they recalled them. But yeah, this was so far. What as far as I know with Deliriums, and I'm not a Franco scholar, but nor am I a
Me too.
like entry level. But I'm somewhere in the middle. Still getting to know
Yeah.
Uncle Jess, but these are all
Right.
from as far as I know with the Delirium titles, they were all produced by, and some of them even directed by Erwin C. Dietrich, who the most famous title with Lena was Rolls Royce Baby, I believe.
Mm.
Um, and they all had like hardcore and softcore cuts for the most part. I think some of them just had softcore cuts, like the Love Letters to a Portuguese Nun, which just came out this month as a partner release through that's available on both sites, which is very rare. Um, this one is almost out of print. They're down to 385, but there's this one has both the softcore and hardcore cut, which is why it's strictly on Melusine. And I was really excited for this one because I know this is considered one of Uncle Jess's best.
Mhm.
Um, what was your take, Celeste? How well versed are you on Franco?
Yeah, I think this is probably my sixth film of his that I've seen, which, for most directors, it's like, oh, I'm like, I know all this shit. But like for him, it's like, that's what, 6% of
Yeah,
his
if
nothing,
that, I was gonna say that's
Um,
2% on Letterboxd.
yeah. Um, and the viewers just got an awesome shot of my cat yawning. Big wig, good job. You're being a real star. I don't have a ton of thoughts on this. I'll just share them real quick. I like the cinematography. Like I genuinely do. I know people say that when they can't think of anything else to say because I didn't think it was that good, but I did really like it. The vibes are there. Lena Romay is really hot. That's what I have to say about that. And am I missing something, or is this just straightforwardly not an adaptation of Dorian Gray and it's just called that for no reason? I don't.
Yeah, I mean, well, there is something with like, yeah, it's a strange thing because there is like a mirror involved, sort of, I guess, to a
hmm
degree, and yeah, I mean, it's certainly a loose adaptation to put it nicely. I mean, the title is definitely meant to get people's attention, um,
Uh-huh.
but look. Lena, you're right. Lena Romay is incredibly beautiful. So you have a movie where she's facing off against herself sexually. That's got my
hmm
attention. But like a lot of this, you're right to call it the cinematography because you're right. Look, it's an easy thing to go to, especially in the streaming era where now we know everything that was shot on film just looks better by default. Um, but I do think he's really cooking here.
There's some
There's some,
shots in here where I'm like, God damn, like he knows what he's
yeah,
doing, and like that is framed. by someone like, I don't know, who knows what they're doing. He's not
Yeah.
just like slumped, you
Yes.
know?
Yeah, yeah. Some real silhouetted shots and
Mhm.
well, because he genuinely loves Lena Romay's body. Like it's not
Sure.
it's a weird way to say it, but his camera genuinely is as enamored as he is. Somehow he translates that, which is rare.
Mhm.
Usually it doesn't feel objectifying. It genuinely feels like simping. Um and and Lena's expressions, because she has such a radiant smile, they're just at top in peak form here. And I didn't watch the softcore cut. I should have. I actually think Jess's pornos are pretty bad. Most people will say that too. They won't argue against it. Just in terms of they're extra gynecological. You know what I mean? Like they really get in there,
Mhm.
but they just don't really focus. There's no interest in zooming out. Um, so I loved it. The places in this mansion and in the institution, they're really atmospheric, like especially for Uncle Jess.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, Chris.
No, I didn't get to see it. I'm just listening. I
Oh,
have,
oh, okay,
yeah.
Oh, I
okay,
thought you did. My
No, no,
bad.
no, no, no.
That's right.
This is the
I meant
only one
to,
I didn't get
I
to this time.
forgot. Yeah.
okay.
Um, but I'm just listening. But no, I mean, I'm excited for Delirium. I'll just say that because it's like a perfect partner label thing. Because now VS gets to claim a lot
Mhm.
of Franco too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because VS's mainline Franco output is a little more divisive, to say the
Yeah,
least, and
Yes. My
this on
introduction was to Undercover Angels, and at the time, and honestly still, I thought it was like two of the worst movies I'd ever seen. I just like couldn't
yeah.
believe how bad they were.
I need
And
I
now
need
I'm
to
coming
revisit.
around seeing more of I mean, that's his spy comedy, which is like a genre I hate generally. So like
Yeah.
not off on the best start. If we're just talking about like sumptuous, sort of like gothic uh vampire shit or whatever, like I've been seeing lately, like I'm into that. Do you know what this movie is about? I don't even remember, to be honest.
Yeah, it's so if I'll do this based on memory, but if I remember correctly, it's Lena Romay plays Doriana Gray, and she's like sort of a succubus that
Hmm.
has a twin sister that is institutionalized. But the thing is, Doriana Gray cannot orgasm. Like when she gets aroused, the sibling that is in the institution is the one who has the orgasm, I believe. And
Interesting.
so it kind of that's why it ends with them, excuse me, squaring off against themselves.
Hmm.
Um, and how that shot is actually very impressive. Um,
Hmm.
but it has that seaside haze. I mean, the thing about good Franco is, like Vampiros Lesbos, or even his Euro spy ones, like what is it, The Girl from Rio? They always have these like dreamy seaside haze things to them,
Mm.
while there's like some really great music, some jazzy music. Venus and Furs is another one. Like they all have these like beachside or riverside
Mm.
things to them, and it clearly, between that and having a beautiful life partner, like that's all he needs to start filming, you know? Um, and so I think and there's an interview, by the way, with Lena Romay on this, and the way she also speaks very lovingly of him. She just loves
Cute.
working with him. She also loves being on camera. That's the other thing. I think I was speaking to this thing about how, she gets on camera even when she's doing hardcore stuff. And I know Jess hated it, but Lena Romay was an exhibitionist, like very admittedly, like she was open about that. She loved showing off her body. She loved being naked. So it's hard to have that intent versus impact argument when the person who's taking
Mm.
off their clothes is like, I want to do this 100%. Her agency is
Mm.
there through and through. And not only that, she's getting off on it. So um,
It's awesome.
there's something to that, I think, in terms of something that I think is something to keep in mind when you're watching this stuff, even if Jess doesn't like making the porno himself, like the actual hardcore parts. This also only has like 12 minutes of hardcore inserts. Like the
Hmm.
softcore cut is actually, I think, like almost a full 10 minutes shorter.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah,
on that note, we move from getting off to logging off, I think. Is there any
great
closing
segue.
sentiments? or
Well, if not to put you on the spot on here, but I would love to actually join you for January to talk more
yeah, for
Sato.
sure.
Okay, great. I don't
Yeah, I'm
know,
down.
Chris, if you, I don't know, that's up to you, obviously, but if you want to join Chris, but oh boy, yeah, I think Melusine is already having a great year, and we didn't get to talk about this because the sale already happened, but they announced a partnership with VCX,
Hmm.
which is kind of the other big label that was missing from their repertoire.
Right.
That's a really big get for them because a lot of very famous movies, obviously Debbie Does Dallas right out the gate. So what I'm most excited about, and you guys can tell me if you feel this way, but I like that there's more labels because that means the Picaramas and the Quality X's, all of that will be more far apart from each other.
Mm.
Because I felt like the one drawback to Melusine kind of when they first launched was you basically had three labels and an occasional partner label, right?
Hmm.
So, um,
No, it does diversify it for
yeah,
sure.
very much so. So I know with the partner labels, it's like, oh yeah, if there's one shot of a dick that's hard, it can qualify. Your
Great
cat
timing.
again, Celeste. Oh, okay.
Great
I'll just hold
timing.
it. Yeah, yeah. I'm just gonna hold the
He's
camera.
actually
This
causing trouble as we speak, so I gotta go. But
I'm gonna do
thanks y'all
Blair
for doing
Witch.
this.
I'm gonna do Blair Witch ending. All
Uh-huh.
right, all right. Thanks to both of you. This was super duper
Hmm.
fun.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, thank you all. Thanks for inviting me. I don't know that I need
Yeah,
to
of
come back
course.
on all of these. Like there's just like we said, so much to watch. But I've really
Yeah.
enjoyed being here for two of them. Thank you all for inviting me in.
Yeah, of course.
Sweet. All
All
right.
right. We'll see you next time.
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks.